Sales is a transfer of certainty. And at the end of the day, a lot of people think it's a certainty in your product. But in reality, it's a certainty in yourself, right? If I say, Amaan, my product works, it's not certainty in my product. It's me being certain in my word and you being certain that I'm confident in what I'm saying.
For example, like the 9 a.m. trainings, sure, were there people who would come late and whatnot? Yes, but there was a core group of guys who would always be there on time, right?
One of the things Dylan was talking about on the last podcast is like most people don't have any fucking standards. All right, let's jump in. Cool, guys, welcome to another episode of Charge It to the Game. You're here with your host, Misha, and your host, Amaan, Cottar.
What's going on?
Me and Amaan, we met each other when we were like 14 years old. And since then, we've been working side by side to scale one of the largest high ticket sales agencies in North America, maybe in the world. So yeah, we just wanted to hop on the pod. Dylan, Rome, some of the other guys, they're busy, they're on meetings, but we're sticking to weekly podcasts. So I guess, let's kind of talk about, the come up. We obviously started out, camping out in Toronto in negative 20 degrees Celsius, buying and reselling shoes, wheeling and dealing in the Facebook marketplaces to, going on to starting as closers, eventually moving into sales managers, now content. Now we're podcast hosts. So let's jump in, bro.
Yeah, let's jump in. Where do we even start with this? The one thing that comes to mind is, on this journey, being exposed to this world, being exposed to the type of money, being exposed to the type of clients, it brings the best out of you. And like you're forced to perform at a high level day to day, no matter what. It's sales at the end of the day. And especially when it came to being a sales manager, I remember I never wanted to be one. And it was never something that like I aspired to be or I was striving for. It kind of just, I don't want to say it fell into my lap because it was definitely earned, but I was unconsciously doing the things that a sales manager would actually do. And we both were. Something that comes to mind is, as we were growing our commissions, as, we got to the benchmarks, 5K, 10K, 15K, I always approached it from a money hungry sort of perspective where it was
management?
Like, not manage in a way, yes.
Okay.
I'm talking about the management before we had that title,
right.
manager.
I didn't like it at all, to be honest. Like in the beginning, we just kind of had to do it because someone needed to do it. But like, it was like super annoying, like having to be at the office and like 9:30, I'm still getting my coffee and, and like we got to train everybody. Like in the beginning, I was like, man, this is annoying.
Dude, we used to do them at like 9 a.m. if you remember.
Yeah.
Like, it's so crazy.
Yeah, and like motherfuckers are late. They're not at the office on time. And like, a message, yo, where you at? And like, it's just annoying to deal with in the beginning.
No, I see where you're coming from. And like, I would agree.
Yeah, this was when, by the way, like we were like, what, 19?
Yeah, and like I remember at times like there was like a dude who was like 50, 55 Danny that we were managing.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Yeah, crazy.
I always approached it from the perspective of like, okay, if I can help other people make more money, that just means the business is going to make more money. And when the business makes more money, they're going to spend more money on marketing. And when they spend more money on marketing, me as a closer, I'm going to get more leads. So like I always viewed it from that perspective, which is why, like, even though sure it was annoying, tedious, whereas like, hey, we listened to calls, we trained and onboarded new sales reps. It was like, hey, I'll do that, even though we weren't getting compensated for it at first, just for the sake of my commissions growing. But then that just led into us really stepping into a new role. And I remember, that day Dylan was like, hey, I want you guys managing your own individual offers, where you can earn an override. It was like, oh, wow. Since we were doing that for free and earned it, getting paid for it was just kind of like that next level up.
For sure. And just a little bit of context, for the people at home. This was like, because when we started, remote high ticket closer, like wasn't a thing. It was just like fucking sales, like here's the sales job. Our partner Dylan obviously came across the space. He was crushing it, making a bunch of money. He brought a bunch of people in, we reached out, made it happen. So like there was, in summer of COVID, right, Toronto was like shut down, right? Like it was like super whack, really weird. The government was moving crazy. And yeah, it was like if you're driving somewhere, like you better be going to the gym or the hospital, otherwise like you get a ticket. Like, do you remember that? So like we would be like, keep in mind we had signed the lease before COVID even hit, right? So we were here, and um yeah, so it was just like yo, like I'm trying to close, like I'm making good money, like I don't care about this COVID shit, like I'm trying to close deals, man. So it's like I remember I was always putting like a gym bag in my car just in case, which is crazy to think about now looking back. Like that shit was wild. But like yeah, summer of COVID, it's like what, 20, 25, 18, 19, 20-year olds just in this office. Everybody's making crazy money. There's an insane amount of leads coming in because this is when COVID and kind of there was that crazy just like hype, right, around just like online business models, right? So it was just a big mess. Like there was a lot of money coming in, but it was just a big mess. So like naturally, someone kind of had to step up and manage and train and lead and all of that. Let me ask you this, bro. Do you feel like um, because right off the bat you were doing pretty well. You were crushing it. I remember like in the beginning you were the first one to close the highest ticket deals. You're the first one to always go for like the biggest packages whenever a new offer or something would come out. Do you feel like you were, a natural closer or like a natural salesperson, or do you feel like that's something that, maybe you developed?
I don't think anyone's a natural closer. I think people are naturally charismatic, they're naturally personable, and then that helps them with closing. But like, how can anybody be a natural closer where it's like, hey, I'm just gonna close deals? Maybe you're a good communicator, but for me, it was quite the opposite. In all honesty and transparency, but through my hunger for like the lifestyle that I wanted and just like the goals that I had, like it forced me to learn, and it forced me to make pivots very
Hmm.
quickly. And like
Hmm.
that's something that I always understood, where it's like, hey, sales, you get paid in direct proportion to the
Hmm.
revenue you bring to an organization. And it's like if I had a deal that I knew I could have closed but I didn't, it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go to my peers, I'm gonna go to my mentors, I'm gonna go to Dylan, ask for some feedback so that I can quickly identify something that I can improve or make a pivot on
Hmm.
to get better. So no, I would not say I was a natural salesperson, but what I would say is I was naturally a hard worker just through my upbringing, and then that work ethic translated to, talent.
Right. Okay. Because I feel like I was asking that question kind of with the premise of like, bro, like I think you are one, to be
What makes
honest.
you say that?
I think like maybe it's not like natural like sales ability, because I think that's like bullshit when like there's people who are like good talkers or whatever, right? And they say, oh, you should get into sales. Like I don't think that's really sales. But I think just in the sense of like you always, and like bro, like I knew you for like what, almost 10 years now, which is crazy. um like you just always had like that dog in you, bro. Like you always had that like side to you, where like even like for example, like in like soccer, I never played soccer with you, but obviously we went to the same high school. But even when we were playing like ultimate frisbee, you know what I mean? Like if someone was like like if someone was I don't know, doing something disrespectful, or if someone was like physical with like one of our teammates, like you know what I mean? Like you would get into it, and I think like that side of you, like almost just like that savage, right? Where it's like, okay, you're 18 years old, you just dropped out of fucking Ryerson University, you're talking to, serious players on the phone, and you're like, yeah, it's just gonna be a one-time investment of $10,000, and like you didn't give a fuck, right? For me, like I was always like, like, I don't know, let me just go for the safe kind of sale. Like this is my thought process in the beginning. But like you would always just go for it, I feel like.
I mean, for me, I think where that comes from, and like to get into sales, I think this is something that definitely helps you. It's like having an ego.
Hmm.
For me, like everyone, what does ego stand for? Everybody's got one, right? But for myself, like it was never only about like the commissions. Like that was one side of thing,
Hmm.
one side of the equation. But the other side was just like, well, I want to be on the top of the leaderboard. Like,
Hmm.
and that ego would get crushed when I wasn't at the top of the leaderboard. And yeah, like, there were months consistently I was at the top of the leaderboard. There were months where, maybe I was second or third or, whatever the case may be. But it's like when you see yourself in that position and it has that sort of effect on your ego, it's really like two options. It's either, you lower your self-image of yourself, like, okay, I'm okay with not being the best, or that just forces you and your inputs and actions to a higher level where it's like, well, no, I do want to see myself at the top. What do I need to do to get there? And that's kind of where the coachability comes into play. Even though I have, I'd say, a high ego, I would always and still am very coachable. If someone has someone if someone has, a valuable nugget to share or piece of advice, it's like, well, why wouldn't I listen?
You want to know another one that I thought about? There's one too where you see certain guys with ego, because like, bro, we've worked with so many closers at this point and like so many different types of personalities. There's also another one where some people they have an ego, and they know deep down inside that if they actually went all out and if they actually like tried their fucking hardest and grinded their ass off and really went for it, they know that they wouldn't be able to actually be that good. So they protect their ego by not putting in the work. Like we've seen a lot of that too, right? Of like lazy, egotistical people, Alex Hermosi says it. It's like they did some massive study on like, ultra successful people, right? There's three character traits that, they all seem to have. One is that, they have this, they have that high ego, right? They see themselves as capable of way more than everybody else, right? They look at the room. Yeah, the superiority complex, they have that. But then they also have the crippling like insecurity of like, I need to, prove to myself I'm not good enough. I need to put in the work, right? So it's those two forces working together of like the superiority complex of I'm better than everyone. And then the other side of it where it's like that crippling insecurity of like, yo, I need to go and get it. And then on top of that, it's just delayed gratification, right? Which like, if you think about it, like I remember the first time I heard him say that, like that sounds like a fucking emotional roller coaster, But I guess it's just part of the game. Yeah. Just got to charge it to the game sometimes.
I mean, on that note though, like, because I remember even like that day, through like kind of like the slow season, and then boom, we get hit with like Ty Lopez, and like, you were out there closed, a 10K and like multiple different 5K, 3Ks, like on your first day on the offer, and like your first month was very strong too.
Yep.
How was that? And I asked that question from the perspective of like, okay, I know even, you have an ego as well. And like, you also have that superiority complex, but then you're speaking to other business owners who have actually achieved more than you. So like that balance, would you bring that ego to the calls, or would you kind of like,
no. I mean, you gotta like, everybody's got one. But if like a lot of people will turn it into, Dylan calls it a dick swinging contest, right? Everybody just starts fucking swinging their dick around, and then no one actually can close a deal, right? Because if like I start out the call and like, hey, Mr. Prospect, I'm just going to need you to give me a yes or no decision at the end of this call, and we'll take it from there. Is that cool? And then they hit you back with, well, why don't you just tell me about your offer and I'll tell you if I want to do it or not. And then you hit them with well, that's not the way this call is going to go. And then all of a sudden you just get into this, like you're not getting anywhere, So no, I mean, you just gotta keep it chill. And like, you also gotta know who's in the room, like, yeah, like that's definitely not something I really bring into my calls, or I try not to. And especially with an offer like that, right? I remember I was super, starting out, because when I found out I was hopping on the offer, it was like literally the day before, and Ty had like just announced that he's running back. Like this is when he went ghost for a couple of years with his personal brand. Like he just came back. And he like announced like, okay, we're doing a full-on mastermind, multiple events all year, $25, $50, $100,000 packages. Dylan hits me up, Misha, you're on Ty Lopez tomorrow. You have a full book calendar. Get ready. I'm watching like podcasts of Ty Lopez, just trying to like understand like what he's all about. And then, yeah, I remember like my first couple calls that day, like I messed up. Like it was like really weird, because I was nervous. Because this is me going from, selling like a $3,000 to $8,000 e-commerce coaching, stock trading. Also, there's a little bit of like agency stuff, for the most part, e-com, to selling to sophisticated business owners, high ticket, mastermind, networking, stuff like that, Yeah, I like messed up the first couple sales. But yeah, to be honest with you, like on that first day, I just did a bunch of calls. I, trusted myself and my framework and what I'd accomplished up until that point. Did pretty well. It really like the mindset shift for me, man, was when I closed the first 25K, which was I think within my first week of selling on that. Yeah, which was crazy. I remember I just like, I went for the 25K, pitched it. The guy was like, okay, cool, sounds good. How do we take care of the investment? I'm like, oh shit. I'm like in my car. I'm like, yeah, just give me 1 second. I'm like, we're running up to my laptop. Him just like reading out his card, not even declining, just processing for 25K, just
the
like that.
19-digit Amex card.
Yeah, I'm like, damn, man, like that's that's crazy. 15 digits, by the way.
How many?
15.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. I don't know why I said 19.
Yeah.
On that portal, man, that was like the best thing to see.
Yeah,
where
yeah.
you see like the green payment approved thing.
Yeah.
You're like, yes.
Yeah, but because I don't know if you remember this, but they were talking about they put a couple 7 figures into the CRM.
Did they?
Yeah, to build out that whole back end.
I mean, it looked good. I mean, like, it looked like shit.
Yeah, it didn't look good at all.
Put the fucking 7 figures into that shit, damn.
Yeah.
But I see a lot of similarities with that and management, in all honesty. Like that ego balance where it's like, at times, like, yeah, that ego needs to be there where it's like, hey, I know I'm capable of performing. Hey, I know what I'm capable of and what I bring to the table. But then at the same time, you also got to be humble. And just like you mentioned on sales calls, if you're speaking to a player, you're not going to get into a dick swinging battle. Just like a manager, if you're speaking to a top producer, you're not going to have an ego battle, right? You're going to be humble, but you're going to humbly kind of explain to them how they can grow, how they can succeed. Like when you manage your teams or when I'm managing mine, like it's never a place of, hey, I'm right, you're wrong. It's like, hey, from my experience, I've noticed that when you do this, it's less effective than doing this.
Yeah.
Give it a try.
Yeah. And I think just in general with like the whole ego thing, like it's you can't be emotional in what we do, like there's so much emotions and stress and like stuff that we deal with. Like you got to be really in control of yourself and your emotions and just look at things with like a really objective mindset, but because yeah, like if you get lost in all of that shit, then you're just going to go crazy, and we've seen people go crazy, but
I think that just comes down to like the network, because there's definitely been days where like I've been emotional on the sales day, but then just talking it out with you or Rome, Dylan, one of the guys, it's like it helps you ground yourself and then look at the sales day objectively instead of just like from an emotional perspective where it's like, okay, sure, like it sucks that you had a 0 day or you didn't close as many opportunities that you knew you could have, but it's like, well, what did you learn from that? How can you actually learn from this experience? Because success and failures leave clues, which honestly I feel with that perspective change, it really does bring you a lot of closure, to be honest. And then you can kind of close what happened on that day and then just attack the next day with like a fresh new perspective. I know you and I do that a lot.
Yeah. No, for sure. Someone messaged me last night, actually, one of the closers who we trained, who hopped on a pretty serious offer. He messaged me last night, and he was like, hey, like, I'm kind of going through a rough period right now. I'm stressing a lot. Like how do I manage my mindset, right? How do I like shake this feeling was what he said. And I was like, bro, like you're not supposed to shake the feeling. You're feeling that for a reason. And if you weren't stressing, if you weren't pissed off, that you weren't seeing the results that you want, like I think that would probably be a problem, right? I'm like, it's not about shaking those things. It's just about like using it, right? I told him, I'm like, bro, use it as fuel. We're probably feeling those feelings because you can be doing better and you know that you could be doing better and you have higher standards for yourself, right? So it's like, okay, just recognize that's part of the game, charge it to the game, and use it as fuel, And I feel like that's what I've always done, I've always just yeah, like you learn how to manage, because like you learn how to manage the highs and lows. Like in the beginning, like even when I closed like that 25K deal, I was probably like geeking at the time. Like I was probably super fucking hyped up about it. Yeah, you get pretty hyped up, but like even like as it goes now, like we have a closer in the office right now. He's like, he makes $500 in a day, and he's super excited. He's had a couple days, this week where he's made $500, $600, $800 in a day, and he's like, oh, he's all freaking out, and like it's great, that's awesome. But like you got to be able to and enjoy it, celebrate the wins, all that stuff is great, but like just as much as you can't get too low, like you can't get too high. Like you go and you make a couple $1,000 in a day. It's like, okay, cool. It's just another day at the office. This is what I'm supposed to do. This is why I'm here, and you got to be able to keep it even, because it goes both ways, and that's probably the coolest thing that I've learned. I feel like I've learned from this is just, keeping that even keel, day-to-day compartments, not getting too high, not getting too low. Keeps me pretty chill.
Do you have like a specific strategy or approach? Like, let's say, you have a day where, you had, let's say, 10 different closing opportunities with qualified leads, but you only close one or two of them. And like, you're kind of pissed and frustrated that you didn't close the other eight. Like,
Yeah.
what type of, okay, you have that
Yeah,
approach,
like
but what is that?
one that like one, we've also been in this space for like 6 years now. We've done all the work that we've done. Like that rarely happens where it's like a significantly bad day where it's like, yo, something really went wrong here, right? But obviously it does happen, and when it does, it's like I just have enough experience to look at it objectively and say, okay, like I just didn't do this. Like this is where I could have improved. And then it's like, okay, great. You have one bad day, you can fucking sulk about it, or you can just figure out, okay, why was it bad? All right, let's just make sure that never happens again. And then it actually turns into a win because of that, right?
For sure. It's almost like an out of body experience and reflection where it's like you're reflecting from like a bird's eye perspective on your sales day.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Just look at it objectively. Just look at the facts, and like also too, like it's kind of like a muscle, like at a certain point, like if you get someone who's never gone to the gym and you load up 3 plates, and you say, go lift it, his fucking shoulders are going to pop out of his fucking body. You know what I mean? But if you're in the gym every single day and you're progressively overloading, right? You're putting on a little bit more weight over time, every couple weeks, right? You're increasing the amount of stress that you put on that muscle. Over time, like what used to be a massive amount of weight, all of a sudden becomes nothing, right? And it's kind of the same thing, after we've, done so many repetitions, it's like just another day at the fucking office,
How would you say like you go about, like, at least from that experience you had yesterday, like I loved like the advice you actually gave to that closer, because it's one thing to like live it and handle it objectively because you have the experience, but how would you how do you help your reps adopt that sort of mindset and that sort of approach?
Um, I think there's certain stuff that like you only really learn with time, you know? You just let them go through it. Like bro, like you got to go through all of that to learn. And like if anything, like I want them to go through that. So no, it's all part of the game.
Right. You just kind of let them experience it, let them sit in that
Yeah,
emotion that they feel, and then the more they sit in that emotion, they're gonna realize, hey, this fucking sucks. Just sitting in this emotion, not doing anything about it. Let me
mhm.
actually do something about it, and that's where they adopt the objective mindset.
Yeah, and like the thing is with like managing a team and managing a lot of closers, obviously there's a lot to it, right? Like there's um there's tracking KPIs, right? There's listening to call recordings, there's running a consistent cadence of meetings, right? There's looking at, the daily activities, right? Putting out like daily issues and things that are happening with the offer, right? And like always being available on your phone, right? Like there's all of that stuff. But then there's also like, managing a sales team. It's like you also sometimes do have to be a little bit of a therapist. Um, but like honestly, like at the end of the day, I'm just like my personal philosophy, like, if I have a problem or something, like I got to figure it out on my own, like I'm not gonna, well, I mean, I think you can always lean on, the people around you and, I always have, but yeah, like I'll let them go through that shit on their own. At the end of the day, let's look at the KPIs, let's look at the stats, let's listen to the call review. What was the objection that you were getting? Okay, 4 out of 5 of the missed deals that you had was this objection. Cool. Let's just role play this objection nonstop for 30 minutes and then go and start your day. You know, I think the mindset you just learn by going through the the day to day as a working in sales.
For sure.
Got to stay hydrated too. Major key of being in
That's
sales.
another thing about you, Misha. You always steal my damn water bottles, bro.
Oh, this is yours?
Always stealing
It's
them,
mine now.
staying hydrated.
Yeah, yeah. What else you want to talk about, bro? Fun fact. I think the minimum amount of water, which I learned recently that you need to be drinking a day, is approximately 8 of these water bottles. Did you know that?
Does that help your close rate?
Like straight up, like no lie, like yeah, I think it does. It keeps your mind sharp. I used to be, instead of water bottles, I used to be Red Bulls. I'd be having 8 Red Bulls a day. And like that's definitely not good. Like that's a recipe for disaster.
We were living on that for
Bro,
a
dude,
good 2 years. Dylan would come to the office with like a Costco haul of 8 different cases of Red Bull. Our entire mini fridge in our office is just filled with Red Bulls. He's just tossing it around like it's Halloween candy. Hey, you take a Red Bull. You take a Red Bull. Drink, drink, drink. Get your energy up. If that didn't work, he's throwing ice down our backs to get our energy up on the phone.
Bro, do you remember back like maybe first year of sales, when I was in the fucking middle of the winter, I would be like picking up everybody in my mom's van
I remember that.
at 8 a.m. Scooping everybody, filling up the
Magic School Bus.
the 8-seater Honda Odyssey, and like every single time I would have like a fucking cold Red Bull, getting ready for the day, man. That was crazy, but yeah, not fun.
But that just comes with like the evolution of a closer. Once you're first in it, you're like, okay, I gotta stay caffeinated. I gotta be super on it 24/7. But then once you actually realize that all that Red Bull, all that caffeine, it just ends up into a crash, and then you just super low energy for like the rest of the sales day. You're like, okay, this is unsustainable. Let me grow from this. Not to mention unsustainable just with like the energy and the caffeine, but also like your health.
Right,
And there's
right,
kind of
yeah.
stages to just growth, especially as a closer. It's like, okay, first you're focused on just like inputs, dials, close rate, and that's about it. And then from there, to reach like the next level, I feel like focusing on like the intangibles, like focusing on your health, focusing on your diet, focusing on
Yeah.
the personal development just takes you to a complete other level. Like seeing you go through that, like that's been a big inspiration, I feel like, not only for me, but also for the team to kind of just elevate the standards where it's like, yeah, don't get me wrong, like continue to pursue the sales growth and the sales mastery, but also pursue that life mastery and pursue that personal development mastery.
Yeah, yeah. No, for sure. It's getting dialed in all aspects. That's really the next step, right? Because sales is a transfer of certainty. And at the end of the day, a lot of people think it's a certainty in your product, when in reality, it's a certainty in yourself, right? If I say, Amaan, my product works, it's not certainty in my product. It's me being certain in my word and you being certain that I'm confident in what I'm saying, right? So it's a transfer of that certainty, and like that certainty is only created like when you're genuinely confident in yourself, And I think that confidence comes from the certain disciplines and the standards that you hold to yourself to every day, right? One of the things Dylan was talking about on the last podcast is like most people don't have any fucking standards. If you ask someone, hey, like what are your standards? What are the things that you hold yourself to? What are your non-negotiables? Right? Like they don't really have any. Like I know like a few years ago, I didn't have any either. And a lot of people don't. But I think yeah, I think it really starts there. And then man, for me, like even the waking up at earlier than normal and getting to the gym when it's fucking snowing outside and it's you don't want to go but like you do anyways, like reading the books and all of that. I always just translated that to like like sales, you know, like it wasn't even like, hey, I'm trying to get jacked. It was like, yo, like if I figure out, the question I used to ask myself was like, yo, like if I can't figure out how to be up every morning by 6 a.m., be in the gym by 7, you know, and be in the office by 8, like if I can't figure out how to do that consistently, like how the fuck am I gonna go make $1 million, you know? And then like when you think of it like that, like when you have your big goal, right, buying your mom a house or achieving financial freedom or like whatever your goal is, right? But when you think of it like that, it's like, yo, how the fuck am I going to accomplish that if I can't figure out how to read a book for 15 minutes a day? You
That's a
know,
good point.
all of a sudden it's like, yo, what are you doing? You know, it's like I used to, I would always just like tie all of that stuff to sales because I was trying to make more money. I was trying to make more commissions, you know, but for some reason, I just understood that, yo, like I need to be doing these things. I need to get everything sharp, on point. And when I do, like the thing is like when you start doing that, you start seeing that translated to your sales calls, like within a very short amount of time, you know, like going from, you know, me like smoking weed every day, you know, not having any kind of consistent routine, you know, being all over the place to just one day, just flipping the switch and going like, okay, no, let's get serious. Like within my first like week, 2 weeks, I'm making more money. I'm closing more deals, you know, and then instantly you're like, shit, I want to make even more money. Right. And then you start going on this crazy upward spiral. You do that for a year, 3 years, 5 years straight. Like that's where I think, yeah, like you see people, you know, overnight success, right?
Yeah, and especially when you say that, it's like, especially through our earlier years, like that was a standard that I felt like everyone upheld. And for example, like the 9 a.m. trainings, sure, were there people who would come late and whatnot? Yes, but there was a core group of guys who would always be there on time, right? You know, we had a solid like 4 or 5 people who were always there, right? Josh, Tanner, a couple other guys. And that standard kind of ripples down, like especially when you're taking on like a leadership role, like it's hard to lead other people if you're not leading yourself. And it's so important to set those standards, especially if you do eventually want to become a sales manager or just, you know, the best sort of producer you can. It's like creating and abiding by those standards, it just ripples to other people. Because it's like, you're not going to entertain conversations with others if, you know, they're not honoring the same code of conduct. It's like, it kind of goes back to that superiority complex, right? Where it's like, I'm doing these things, you're not. Why should I help you? Yeah. And then they recognize that just through how you move, your demeanor, how you talk, how you act, how you walk. And then they're like, okay, well, let me get to that standard. You see them put in that work. And then it's like, okay, now I'll actually take time out of my day to help and, you know, guide someone on a question they have or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, because that's kind of the minimum now, right? Like, yeah, in the beginning, there was a fucking, you know, it was a lot of people just starting out, just starting to make money, you know, so it was crazy. But like now we're working with hundreds of sales reps, you know, we got teams, there's certain standards. Like if someone's not showing up on time, it's like, especially early on, you know, if there's some shit going on where there's communication is off or, you know, inputs aren't being met, you know, outputs are besides from the point, but just showing up and doing the things that need to happen to get the results that you want to see that are in your control. If those things aren't happening, like those people are in and out quick, you know? But yeah, like it's understanding that those things are just non-negotiables, right? For us, it's helped us accomplish what we need to accomplish. And yeah, when we see other people not really following through on that, then yeah, see ya. Salespeople, the thing is with salespeople are the most replaceable people in the world. You know, there are millions and millions and millions of salespeople out there who want your job, who want your spot, and they can replace you in a second, right? 80%, probably 90% of salespeople out there can be replaced in a week, you know? So I think it's important to strive to do the things that most people aren't willing to do. Otherwise, yeah, gonna get out of a job quick.
Most definitely.
Lazy closers, bro. We can do a whole fucking 5-hour podcast where we just talk about lazy ass closers, just making fun of them, man.
I mean, we definitely can. Those guys always weed themselves out, right? Like, especially just in like the whole hiring, firing context. Like, you don't even need to fire those guys quickly because they'll fire themselves. They'll just quit, right? Because they can't hang. They don't abide by those standards. They can't train at the same level of intensity that everyone else is training at. And they're like, dude, like, what it really is them not being built for it, but then they just, come up with all these other excuses that their ego leads them to.
And they're very easy to spot too, where it's like now they just don't get hired, but it's very easy to spot. And that's why it was cool. Like what I did last week, where we just threw I had 5 closers in a group chat. And I was like, listen, hey guys, I'll give you a shot, I'll give you an opportunity. You guys have 2 weeks. I'm going to give all of you guys 1,000 leads each. Here's the material. Here's what you need to know. Let's see what you got. And that was literally all I wanted to test for, right? Outputs and results, not totally concerned about that. Definitely contributes, and it's definitely the most important thing. But everything else, right? How do you move? What kind of work ethic are you going with, right? Are you able to solve problems on your own? Are you messaging me every 5 minutes for some other random issue that you run into that you can't figure out? Are you able to go for it, make something happen? I gave these guys 1,000 leads from it was from March up until June, right? And I'm like, all right, guys, go for it. Let's see what you got. And it's crazy because every single one of them, solid guys, all of them, hungry, coachable, decent skill set for just starting out, right? But it's at the end of the day, actions and performance shows people's true colors, where out of those 5, we're working with 1.5 now, maybe 2.
Right.
And
that's how it normally is. I remember even talk about management, talk about Ty, one of the deals you closed where you closed a 25K in front of 5 or 6 new hires, and out of those 6, only 1 still stands to this day and is still with us.
Yeah. Well, because back then, back then we would just run an ad on Indeed. And that's why, the brand and everything that we do with MC is just such a game changer, right? Because we would just throw $1,000 at Indeed ads, and then just anybody who was ready to hop on calls, we would just hire. And then all of a sudden we would hire 10 people all at once. And then it's just this big headache of training everybody up. And then a month later, we're getting rid of some of them. But we always find the diamonds in the rough at the end, but it was just so inefficient,
It's so mind-blowing to me that people can see someone close. It was a 25K deal in less than 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, somewhere around there. See you make whatever $2,500 in commissions it was on that call, and then not be motivated or inspired to just rough it out.
I don't think. I think everybody who gets into 100% commission sales role, part of them, they're motivated and inspired to do it, right? And it's not that all of them are lazy, but it's just some people just aren't built for it, and that's okay. It's not for everybody. You do have to be, you have to be built a little bit differently than most, and I don't think it's for most people. There's a high turnover rate, right? I think that's a good thing. But yeah, for me, I don't know. For me, because I don't think it's necessarily the skill sets, but I think it's the character traits, because those character traits can't be taught. Skills can be, right? Even for me, I was, I was not very good at this at all. My first sales job in a call center, I was literally just a zombie, just there because I was getting paid by the hour, just doing nothing, even door to door. I'm there, I just read my script with low energy. I hope they don't open the door because I would have social anxiety in the last second, but I just, when I dropped out, especially, right, and I went all in on this, I was I need to make something of myself, I need to go out and get it. And I always just had that sense I'm going to do big things. And I think that sense that I always had, that's what made me, push through and take the actions and go through all the rejection and, the struggle of working your way up from the bottom. That inner sense and those inner character traits is what got me through all of that and got me to the place I'm at today. And I think, it's also just standards, right? A lot of people are fucking happy with, oh, if I make, 60 grand a year, it's consistent, it's safe. I think a lot of people are satisfied with that. And I think, that's great for some people, but I'm just not.
Yeah.
I think there's so much that's fucking possible now. And we just, when you see it up front and close, you see other people doing it, it's like, why not me?
Yeah,
You
and
know?
I believe that's why every business owner, you look at all the successful people, like Elon Musk says this, Steve Jobs says this, every other, your favorite top business owner saying this, like, get into sales first. And I feel like why they say that is not only for the tangible skills that you learn, confidence, speaking, being articulate communicator, being a concise communicator, but I also feel like they share that because sales is like your first taste of what business is like. And it's like, can you handle the fire? Can you handle the pressure? And being in sales, you're in that fire every single day. And I feel like that recommendation to get into sales helps people understand whether they really want what they say they want. Because at the end of the day, winners and losers both have the same goals, and it just really comes down to how bad they want it. And when you're in sales, again, where if you produce, you get paid. If you don't produce, you don't get paid. It helps you get clear on if you actually have the character traits and are built differently to not only survive but thrive in that sort of environment. And especially, how you say, and just brought up the fact that, that high churn rate is a good thing. It's a good thing because, yeah, at the end of the day, you do want to filter through the people who can't hang, who can't survive and thrive in that fire as quickly as you can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Because it's just, yeah, pressure is on you, like basically day in, day out, right? You got to perform. And if you don't, it's like you don't get paid, right? And if you do, you get paid big time, So it's like, yeah, um, where again, it's the, standards you hold yourself to.
Yeah, that brings up a cool little memory, a cool little flashback that, you were sharing with me like 2 weeks ago, where you were speaking to another sales guy. He was doing well, and I believe you touched on this like in the last podcast as well, salesman versus closer. But you spoke about how, through, your conversation, you helped him transform his beliefs to the version of himself that's actually living the lifestyle. And what you just shared kind of reminds me solely and purely of that. That was really cool.
Yeah, yeah. And like you just gotta kind of show people, right? You just gotta show people, hey, this is where you're messing up. This is where this is the reason why you're still in the position that you're in. Now, I'll invite you to take action and make a change. Here's how you can do it. It's right in front of you. What are you gonna do? And yeah, like some people, when you give them that option, hey, like, basically staying in the same position or, stepping into a greater version of yourself and doing something that scares you. Here you go. A lot of the times I don't even like a lot of people, they're more comfortable staying in their same situation, which is painful, which they don't like, but because it's known, they already know it, right? As opposed to stepping into the unknown and going after something that's greater than where they're already at. Most people will just stay in the known that they hate rather than go for anything bigger. And it's like,
For
okay,
sure.
fine, sure, great, awesome.
No, that
And it's like a lot of people like that, like I don't even really like try like a lot of the guys that, a lot of reps are like, oh, like how do you deal with this when they're like this, when at the end you hit them with the story and then you do this, but then they still say they want to think about it. Like in my head, a lot of the times it's like, okay, bro, like go for it, all the best, keep crushing it. I guess it's just not going to be with us, and I'm on to the next call. um
yeah, use it as a learning experience, right?
yeah, because usually the people who like have the most objections at the end, like the people who are so fucking uncertain and got to think about it, like the people that you have to like go all the way with to close and stay on the phone with for over an hour, like those are usually people who don't go on and see great results. Like those are usually people who generally, right, like they have, again, those character traits and those limiting beliefs and all these things, and you might be able to squeeze the deal through, but like at the end of the day, like if you have to go so hard just to take the first fucking step, like what are you going to do for the other 1,000 steps that are in front of you when I'm not there to tell you stories and close you on why you should take the next step, you know?
But that's why closers get paid what they get paid, and why, they can make a lot of money. Like whenever closers share stories like that to me, I always look at it from, it's like, well, that's your problem. Like you're the one who didn't prevent those objections. You're the one who didn't really help them understand the transformation they wanted to make. Because at the end of the day, you just mentioned people are comfortable. And even though they're in a painful situation, they're numb to that pain. And they don't necessarily really experience it to the depth of what it actually is, because they've kind of just grown so accustomed to it. So it's like during, a specific stage in the sales process, situational based, for example, like I always take this approach where it's like, I go super deep so that they can, really get that pain that they're experiencing at a deep level top of mind, and then use that to help them understand the transformation they're looking to make. And then from there,
Let me ask you this. What if you're dealing with someone, let's just say example, right? Let's say he's like, 30 years old and he's a manager at McDonald's and he lives at his mom's house, right? And he's like comfortable with the situation.
yeah, you got to go deep with that sort of person, right? It's, there's a physical level, there's an emotional level, and then there's a psychological level. Like, psychologically speaking, if you're a man who's 30, working at McDonald's, living in your mom's house, I find it hard to believe that, you can truly be a man that you're proud of, because you aren't in a position where you could provide and protect for your future family.
You're a fucking bum.
For lack of better words.
You got to accept that fact if you're ever going to make a change.
Exactly.
But like what I'm saying is like, what if he doesn't accept that fact? What if he's just like, yeah, this is just the situation that I'm in, and it is what it is, and yeah, I kind of want to do something new.
For sure. That's a good question. I mean, again, like if going deep to that psychological, state on a call doesn't necessarily work. For example, if you ask a probing question like, hey, are you proud of the man that you are? And if, something like that doesn't hit, and on top of that, the other context of the call, getting to a physical, emotional level and state from the prospect, if that doesn't work, well, then it's like, yeah, I'm not even going to go on and pitch and present, because that person is against the idea of a transformation. So like, I'll do my best to help them understand the transformation, and more importantly, the severity of, not only the severity, but the urgency of why they need to make that transformation now. But if they're not willing, if they're not open-minded to change, and they're so against it, well, then it's like, hey, dude, exactly what you said. Best of luck. Doesn't seem like this is going to make sense for us. Wish you all the best. Take care. And then you're on to the next, right?
Yeah, because it's like there's, and yeah, there's always a route to go and close a deal. There's always a way that you can go. And that's kind of the cool thing with sales, right? It's like really like any deal is closable. It's just how much time do you have, But like at a certain point, yeah, like that's kind of what I was getting at, like at a certain point, you got to help yourself more than I want to help you. I think a lot of people, they are curious about getting better. They're curious about different opportunities out there, but maybe they're not all the way serious, right? Can you take somebody from curious to serious? Absolutely. And we do it every single day on our calls. But, a lot of the times it's like, bro, is this worth my time right now?
Yeah, and especially us, like, being a big part of MC, like we're taking care of fulfillment at the end of the day. It's like, is that the type of person you want to work with? The person where you need to force them to show up with a good attitude, with a hungry mindset? Like, no, at the end of the day, it just makes your life harder, because you gotta bring them to the water well and force them to drink, as opposed to just bringing them to the water well and showing them the steps to get there.
Yep. Yeah, like that's why it's important just to be detached from the sale and be, strong in your own, values and ethics and what you're all about, like a lot of people will just like close anybody that they can because they're kind of coming from a place of scarcity. And like, I don't like that. I think I used to do that a lot. But like you try your best. You try to close every single sale, right? You have full confidence in your product and what you do. And if someone has a limiting belief, like you're going to go all out to solve that problem, right? But like, yeah, at the end of the day, You want to put people in positions where they can be successful, you know? And if I'm on a call and like some guy's just all over the fucking place, and I don't think he has, you know, the character traits that are going to go on and see results, then I'm not going to try to go out of my way to go and close that deal and push him over the edge, because at the end of the day, like, I just don't think he's going to do well. You know, if he wants to take the step, great, we'll do it. We'll make the transformation, but I'm just not going to go out of my way to do it for him.
For sure.
You know,
And that's the best sort of sales approach at the end of the day, right? Like that pushy Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort approach. It never works and it never will, because people need to feel that sense of, hey, I got to make a change and follow through on this within themselves. And like you and I both had that, right? Like I know big turning points for both of us was and is dropping out of school. Hey, it's like I burned that boat. So now I got to follow through with this. And part of following through is showing up day to day and continuing to get better, optimizing, learning, and just showing up and showing out.
100%, 100%. Cool. Well, let's wrap it up right there.
Let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up, guys. Another episode in the books. Anything you want to say to the viewers back at home?
Remember, if any bullshit happens, just charge it to the game. If you're not for sales, if sales isn't for you, charge it to the game and move on. And with that being said, like, comment, subscribe. We'll catch you on the next one.
Peace.